So there's a lot now. If we're talking about kind of stress and trauma in general, I think if I've done a fair job in the first part of the presentation, you'll know that it's not unique to our clients, right? We're human beings too. A lot of us all have multiple jobs and kids and lots of responsibilities, and you hope your clients don't feel like kids, but I know sometimes it can feel like you're caring for a lot of different people. And so it's no surprise that we are also subject to burnout and trauma, right? Lots of words in this sphere to kind of describe distress, but just wanting to share two. Burnout is a state of chronic stress or fatigue that leads to physical and emotional exhaustion, and sometimes leads to feelings of cynicism, ineffectiveness, and lack of accomplishment. The thing to keep in mind about burnout is that it's insidious, right? And so sometimes it's hard to know that it's happening. And because it's insidious and it happens over weeks and months, it can sometimes feel like we're changing, right? That we just don't like the job anymore. We're just like, different people. Instead of realizing that, we're suffering from sort of a physiological state, right? So if that's burnout, secondary traumatic stress is something a little more specific. It's the emotional residue and duress that persists from hearing about or witnessing another individual's traumatic experiences, right? And in this way, we can experience sort of intrusions like replaying traumatic scenes or thinking about a client repeatedly. We can find ourselves sort of avoidant of that client or that type of client specifically, or generally speaking, responsibilities. It can put us sort of in this hypervigilant state where we're looking for bad things to happen, and it's quite a sort of a jarring state of being, should I say. It can be unpredictable, right? Unlike burnout, which happens over time. This sort of secondary trauma can happen just after one session, right? And so in that way, it's more unpredictable. But just because when it happens is unpredictable doesn't mean that we can do nothing about it, right? And in fact, I think working in our field as frontline workers, we should almost expect that it happens at some point. So this is sort of an extension of the survival mind slide earlier, so I won't say too much about it, but suffices to say when you're in a state of trauma, secondary traumatic stress, burnout, or survival mind at work, it interferes with your functioning on pretty much every single level. Right? You're worse off interpersonally. You can't communicate as well. You can't think about what other people are thinking or what they're actually asking of you. You're less engaged with your work, with your day-to-day responsibilities. Your heart's less in it, right? Your executive functioning is sort of shot. You procrastinate, distracted, feeling flustered all day long. And it really changes sort of your view of yourself and your view of work and how meaningful it is and how competent you are. And in many ways, it just can make the workplace rather miserable for you, right? If you're interested to see whether or not this is happening to you or to what extent it's happening to you, there's a great survey that's available online. It's called the ProQoL. I've set the link right there. It's a survey looking at professional sort of quality of life, and it's a useful tool to use in your supervisions or in your sort of annual checkups with your supervisor, or just with a periodic checkup with yourself to see how you're doing. When we think about burnout and trauma at work, we really have to start thinking about it, not as something, okay, we'll cross that bridge when we come to it, but we have to think about it actively, as if we think about putting on sunscreen when you go outside in the sun for a day, right? If you're going to be outside, if you don't do this, you're going to get burnt, and it's really that simple. Now I'm aware in these talks, sometimes now we turn our attention to self-care. And that has a weird feeling about it, because I think burnout and trauma is such a, as I said, isolating experience. So if I jump immediately to self-care, it can really feel like like, oh God, here it goes again. I'm on my own. I gotta do these things that are hard for me just to make it in the world. So I don't want to do that. So instead, I'll start with the institutional changes. We don't have enough time for me to put in a specific plug for this particular program at Hamilton Madison House, but the essence is that I think there are ways of organizing our teams and our workplace to be more resilient towards burnout and trauma. Right. In this particular program, it's sort of the themes are, people work in teams that have overlapping kind of responsibilities. So everybody shares in the stress and everybody can, acknowledge when something is going good or bad. There's a common sort of mission where people feel like they're engaged. For us, it's helping, severely, persistently mentally ill folks find jobs and live independently. So it's meaningful work. There's a lot of cross coverage for when people go on vacations. So you don't feel like you're in it all alone. And there's ample time for, both team building as well as sort of conferencing with leadership in the program. So, you'll feel it when you're in a right place. And I think, I think it's up to us as institutions to try to make that kind of right setup more prevalent. Right. If you're interested in thinking about this more from an institutional perspective, the University of Kentucky has a survey available. It's called the Secondary Traumatic Stress Informed Organization Assessment. 6 domains looking at different things related to trauma, how well the organization handles safety issues, how actively resilience and efficacy is talked about, how well that's reflected sort of in the leadership and the policies and in your working attitudes. So something that's very well looking at, because I think institutional systemic changes is incredibly important. We can do all the self-help and all the self-care we want, but if you're in sort of an impossible place to work, it's going to be hard to be effective. In terms of individual prevention, I think anticipation is key, right? We have to know that this is a normal humanly reaction, right? So as much as you need to sleep, you're going to react to stress in this way. And we have to, again, treat it like sunscreen. Awareness is key, right? And awareness in a couple of different spheres, right? You have to know why you're in a job or what draws you to it and what you like about it, right? Because I think it's oftentimes these are the things you hold on to when you are having a hard time. Associated with this, you have to know where your supports are coming from, right? You have to know kind of both your social circle as well as professional supports. You have to know kind of what things kind of recharge you and soothe you after a long day or in the middle of a long day. And you have to know kind of your patterns, right? What kinds of things get you into trouble in this way, right? Gets you more burnt out, right? Some people have a tendency to say yes all the time. Some people just really seem to enjoy, or nobody enjoys working late, but do most of their work when everyone else has left the office. And you have to know your patterns. The last thing, of course, is self-care. I know when we talk about self-care, it's a complicated issue, because I don't know what each of you is going through, and everybody has different kind of things that soothe them and helps them recharge. So I'm not going to give specific prescriptions. I will, however, say that there are basics that we just have to get right. Right? Nobody works well when they haven't eaten for 8 hours and it's a frantic day. And nobody works well on say 2 or 3 hours of sleep. So getting this right might look different for everyone, but it could be as simple as just having like a box of granola bars in your office, so that if you're running really late, you have access to some basic nourishment, right? At work, the best tip I can give is to work in sort of chunks and work with variety. So that there are breaks built in, and it doesn't have to be like a 30-minute lunch break where you're out of the office. The science says that it can take as little as 90 seconds, right? So that's like walking to the far bathroom in the office, or just getting up and making basic chit chat with the guy next door, right? Just having some ability to kind of return to our baseline, so we're not carrying the survival mind to our next task or throughout the day, because it certainly does accumulate. Outside of work, I think this gets even more individualized, but the premise is that you have to sort of think about your needs and priorities, right? And for some people, that's making time to go out to eat with friends, but for some people, it's making sure you say no to some friends so you can stay in and do some other stuff, right? The best tip that I've found for this is, in the same way that you might block off time for work, you have to block off self-time. As I think somebody commented just now, just block off an hour for yourself. You don't even have to know what you're going to do, but you just know that time is yourself, and you're not going to compromise on that. The one specific thing that I do want to push or push you guys to consider anyway, is psychotherapy. Full disclosure, I've been to therapy. I go to therapy. I got into it when I was in psychiatry training, where it was recommended that it'll make me a better therapist. And I'm so happy I latched onto, that concrete potential game, because I think it makes this work so much easier. And I really can't imagine, some days doing this kind of work without support in this way. Helps for self-development, professional development, and I really just can't say enough good things about therapy in general. And I recommend everyone sort of think about it. You don't have to have major crises or clinical conditions to benefit from this. Like I said, most of the problems that we face are problems in living, right? So that's what I have to say about self-care. I know we're running out of time, so just two quick things to give us some hope. Without looking at silver linings, there is a great potential for growth and reconsolidation and living a whole life even after we experience trauma. And more, there is a study of resilience and the factors that protect us against trauma and depression and these bad things happening after experiencing trauma. And the good news about this is that a lot of these factors are modifiable and learnable. And so in this way, it's very well worth thinking about and working on. So I'll stop here for now. I want to give Joy an opportunity to say a couple of things about our program and just for concluding remarks.
Yeah, and actually, before Joy, you go, I'm going to just ask Sylvia to drop the survey link in the chat, just before folks roll off. And as you're listening to Joy, at the end of this, you can give us some feedback, because that would be really helpful. Okay, Joy, go ahead.
Oh, thank you very much, Ju and Sylvia, and obviously Dr. Zhao on this presentation. This has actually been very helpful for me as well. And I've had the pleasure to work with Dr. Zhao on a daily basis, but I didn't know some of these things that we could also utilize for ourselves, especially in the self-care. In regards to what Dr. Zhao was talking about, psychotherapy and mental health services, Hamilton Madison House has been providing mental health services since 1974. We provide services in Chinese, Japanese, Korean, Vietnamese, and Cambodian. We provide individual, marital, couples, and family therapy and group counseling as well. In regards to the behavioral health program here, we have always been a provider that provides services regardless of payment. So we do offer sliding scale options. We do accept major insurances, Medicaid, Medicare, and managed care. So if there's any issues that you may have, please feel free to just contact me directly. I think I've sent an email out. We are accepting new patients at this time. I want to say just a little bit about our outpatient mental health program. We actually have two main outpatient mental health programs. One is the one that most of us are traditionally aware of, is kind of like individuals that come in and come once a week or twice a week, or whatever their treatment is. But we also have a PROS program, which Dr. Mike also oversees, which is a day treatment program that focuses on individuals with severe mental illness on their life skills. And so they work as a team, as Mike was saying, and then they also work with the family members to help the individual kind of gain independence back into the community. And so if you have any referrals for those individuals, feel free to contact me as well. We also have a substance use program, and a lot of people don't know very much about it, but we provide services for individuals with alcohol and addiction treatment. It's also located in our South Street program, South Street site. And then we also have a supportive housing program that very few people know, where it provides housing for individuals with chronic mental illness. It's independent living. For any of those programs that you want to make a referral to, feel free to contact me or contact our intake line at 212-720-4540. I will also put it in the group chat. We are available for training and also consultation if needed for your staff and also for your family members, if you choose to. So that's the plug for Hamilton. But we appreciate the invite from Ju and the Asian American Federation for having this opportunity to share our expertise. So thank you.
Thanks, Joy. And Hamilton Madison House is one of our mental health partners, or one of the few Pan-Asian mental health clinics. So they have been open and able to take on new clients. So we have also been asking them to, for folks who are experiencing a lot of trauma around the anti-Asian racism that's been happening. They've been a resource for folks in that area as well. So I just really want to thank Hamilton Madison House. I really want to thank Mike for this really rich content that you provided a presentation on. And I think it gave us a lot of things to think about. And I hope that all of you got as much out of this as I did. We didn't have a chance for a Q&A, but we would really love for you to give us feedback, because again, we created this training in partnership with Hamilton Madison House in response to what you said that you were training that you needed, or sort of information that you needed to help your clients during this time, as well as to support yourselves living through this pandemic. We do have an upcoming mental health event that's not necessarily for providers, but it's overall for the general community. And we have had other providers come. We had a family talk event exactly a year ago to this day. We're doing a COVID version, which is, how do you navigate family dynamics during COVID, especially in immigrant families where there's intergenerational, multi-generational households living together constantly with each other 24/7, which has caused some, tension, some ways to, some challenges to being able to relate in healthy ways with our family members. So we are also doing that in partnership with Hamilton Madison House on November 10th from 6 to 8, and not with Mike, but with other staff and other interns. And so we're looking forward to that. So thank you everybody so much for carving out an hour and a half of your Thursday to join us. And we hope to see you at our future events. Thanks so much and have a great rest of the week.